Hello, I'm Mark McCulley, and welcome to our ongoing journey through Advent and toward Christmas. In America, it seems like only the biggest and the most important things get noticed. Who are the five wealthiest people in the world? Which car company sells the most in a given year? Which basketball team has won the tournament how many more times than anybody else? What's the largest business in town? What's the biggest church? Which party has the most political clout? And on it goes. It seems like everything's got to be bigger and better than everybody else's for us to be satisfied. Well, it's not just us, of course. All over the world, the most important people get the most important places at the table and get invited to all the important government dues and so forth. We celebrate power and might and greatness and riches and all the hoity-toity things of the world. It seems like high culture and everything else as being the best, as though somehow nothing else is worth it. We have designer jeans like nobody designed all the other genes. So how does that relate to us in our journey in Advent? It was because Jesus was known as somebody who was from Nazareth. Now, what was Nazareth anyway? Nazareth was a small town in the northern part of that nation at the time, called Palestine, or Israel, actually. They were occupied by the Romans, and it was divided up into provinces. And Galilee was the northern part, and Judea was the southern part, and it was the capital and the home of the city of Jerusalem, where all the best people lived, and all the richest people had homes, and all the most important people hobnobbed with the Roman governors. Galilee was seen as Hicksville. Nazareth was a backwater town in Hicksville. And so it was, well, I won't draw any aspersions as to which state in America might be the least regarded, but it was like being born or being from the lowliest town in the lowliest province or state in your nation. And Jesus was known as a Nazarene, somebody from Nazareth, his whole life, and that wasn't a compliment. It was used against him, in fact, his whole ministry. It even followed him all the way to the cross, to the sign that they put up on it, said, "This is Jesus of Nazareth." It wasn't a compliment. It wasn't something people thought was good. But why did God do it that way? Well, Jesus wasn't born in a palace in Jerusalem. He was born outside of Jerusalem in Bethlehem, which was David's city, the city of his ancestor David. He was born not in a palace, but in a regular home, and was laid in a feeding trough of animals as his cradle, which is good enough, I suppose, just not grand. And so all through his life, he was doing things as an ordinary person, not as somebody spectacular and not as the son of the local king, but as an ordinary person. It reminds me a bit of what one of the older prophets said about 500 years before, when he said, "Don't despise small beginnings." Because God started the whole thing small. He didn't try to come in with this grandiose blast and blow everybody over with a high wind or something. He just came in, not with an army, but just with a baby. And that baby grew up, and that baby learned how to be a builder like his stepfather, Joseph. And he worked his way through life, perhaps even during some of the time that he was walking around teaching people. Jesus was not from the upper echelons of society. He didn't hobnob with the rich and the wealthy. He was just an ordinary guy who happened to be the Son of God who was preaching wonderful things that nobody had ever understood before. And of course, became one of the most famous people who's ever lived. A little backwards to the way we do it in America. So how about you and me? Do we despise small beginnings or small acts of kindness or small good deeds? Do we think that everything has to be just huge and grandiose, or can we be satisfied with whatever we're able to do? Helping somebody out to the car with their groceries, giving somebody a lift, rescuing somebody's lost kitten or dog, helping out in some way that nobody else is ever going to know, except that God knows and we know. Don't despise small beginnings. After all, Jesus was from Nazareth. N is for Nazareth. I'm Mark McCulley. Thanks for watching. Come back again.